Hello my friends and welcome back to Meerkat's Musings. It's been a little while since I've put together one of these videos, in no small part because I've been quite busy, and as you may already be gathering from the pictures which are going to slide across the screen, that has something to do with a trip that my family and I recently took to the beautiful sunny island of Sicily. Now, Sicily is right on the heel, if you like, of Italy. It's not quite joined to the mainland, but it's pretty close, and it has a distinct Italian feel. I'm pretty sure if I asked the locals, they would perhaps also regard themselves as being Sicilian, and I dare say that Sicily will have its own unique identity as opposed to mainland Italy. But you can obviously tell it's an Italian location. We experienced certain elements of that, shall we say, in no uncertain terms. It's a beautiful place, first of all. It is, without question, dominated by the imposing form of Mount Etna. As we flew in, we could very clearly see, well, at least I could see through our side of the window, that incredible form of the volcano kind of rising up from the island, and it really is a magnificent sight, to be fair. A part of me actually wished it had erupted whilst we were there, because that would have been amazing to see. Of course, that would also have been highly disruptive. In particular, if it had gone up, say, the day before we were due to fly home, that might have created a problem or two. So it's probably better that it didn't erupt. But nonetheless, quite an incredible sight. The hotel itself, we stayed at, was lovely. It was in a town called Naxos, or near a town called Naxos, which also meant we were not very far away from the beach, as Naxos is a beach town. There was a shuttle bus between the hotel and the beach, a free shuttle bus running every so often, quite regular, it must be said, which was quite handy. Only thing I would say is the bus was a little bit unusual from my point of view, in that it had no windows, which was slightly disconcerting for a bus ride, but I guess that's just the norm for this particular type of thing. I don't know. I will say that our experience of Italian roads can be summed up as the bigger the vehicle, the greater the right of way, unless you're on a moped, in which case you do whatever you want. But other than that, it was fine. This little ride to and from town was absolutely fine, and needless to say, it allowed us to get to the beach and to see several little shops and that kind of thing. We spent a lot of time in the swimming pool because, of course you do. When you're on holiday, you spend time in the pool. Where else would you go half the time? It was lovely and refreshing to get into the water. I got into the water at the beach a couple of times, and that was, again, absolutely lovely to get out to the sea. I think I almost kind of feel like I have to when I go away. It's just nice to get into the actual, the sea itself. And lovely clear water as well, for the most part. Not as clear as at Menorca a couple of years ago. It must be said that was spectacular coastal waters there, but nonetheless, absolutely lovely. The food was pretty good for the most part. At the hotel, we were all inclusive, so generally speaking, there were different things each night. They had a number of options around pasta, of course they did. They had a number of options around meat and fish, which you expect. The cakes and things were very, very nice. Ice cream on tap. Being all-inclusive also meant we had on-tap drinks, including alcoholic drinks, which, to be fair, I didn't overindulge in. I didn't really feel the urge or the desire to be fair, but they were there nonetheless, which, was quite nice. Of course it was. To be able to go up and help yourself and pour yourself a beer as and when you fancy it is always quite nice, quite luxurious. So that was a little bit of a treat, I dare say, to indulge in from time to time. There were, as there always are with these things, a couple of small niggles. biggest thing was that the entertainment for the hotel was located by the poolside, and our hotel room balcony overlooked the poolside, which meant that when the entertainment started, and it started at 9 p.m. Because everything starts a bit later. The meals, the evening meal was 7 o'clock. Dinner was at 7 o'clock. Everything kind of gets pushed back from what you're used to. We don't tend to eat that late here in the UK, and the entertainment starting at 9, rumbling on until who knows when, was somewhat challenging when you want to try and get to sleep. Even with the curtains drawn and the patio door closed, the music was still quite loud, which wasn't, as I say, brilliantly ideal. And all you could sort of really do was make the best of that, I guess, as best as we could. But overall, I can't really fault the hotel. It was pleasant. It was nice. We spent probably a fair bit of time there, just because being all inclusive and what with the pools and things, you don't really need to go anywhere. But of course, we didn't spend all the time there. We went to a lovely town called Taormina on a bus ride, a proper bus this time. That bus went up some winding, bending roads that looked like the sort of thing you might see cars racing along in a Bond movie. That was kind of crazy, especially as to how high we were going as well. And some of the turns from a bus in particular, you were left thinking, how is that possible? But they did it. And of course, they did it coming back the other way again, downhill, which was quite exhilarating in its own unique way. Taormina is clearly quite an old town. We actually went there to try and see some Greek ruins, as Sicily actually has quite a lot of Greek influence. But alas, we actually arrived too late for that, which was kind of gutting, really, because that's some of the the most ancient heritage on the island. But we got our times wrong, and alas, missed out on that. But even without seeing that, there's a lot of history in Taormina. You can find all across the island, I would wager, lots of Roman Catholic heritage, because of course that's where the Catholic Church began in Italy, and it's no great surprise that it spread to Sicily in earnest. So you can see lots of that all across the island as well. And in Taormina itself, there were some very expensive shops. So expensive in some cases, and so arguably exclusive, that one of them actually had an armed security guard standing watch, which kind of sums up where where we stand in terms of pricing and their desire to kind of control entry and make sure that everything was protected, as it were. The picture on the screen right now, we dubbed that the archway to the gods. That's not smoke coming out of the volcano. That was cloud formation, but it was coming up at such a way that from our vantage point, it genuinely looked like an arch, which was very impressive. Probably quite lucky on our part to spot that, but had to get a picture of the archway to the gods, as we call it, because it was quite a beautiful, spectacular opportunity. And yeah, we couldn't really miss that. But back to Taormina, as I say, lovely place. We had a meal there, which was something I was craving, actually. One of the things I love is spinach and ricotta ravioli. They did a ricotta ravioli at this little restaurant, this little cafe we found, which was amazing. And of course, it's all quite authentic out there, isn't it? But one thing which did occur, which was quite funny, actually, and it kind of made me think of some videos on TikTok I've seen of some Italians watching people cook. So my sister-in-law went to put Parmesan cheese on her sort of seafood pasta thing that she had, and the waiter was just like, no, sort of wagging his finger like, you can't put Parmesan on this, you absolutely can't, you mustn't, so she was too afraid to after that, to be fair. Whereas I kind of went to town on that because I do like a bit of Parmesan on my pasta. But that was quite amusing, it must be said. And it did make me think of that of those guys on those TikTok videos. So that was, as I say, entertaining from my point of view. What was also entertaining, and was perhaps the most spectacular point of the trip, was when we went out to go dolphin spotting that really was absolutely incredible. I have had the privilege of actually swimming with dolphins before, more than 20 years ago now, but that was in a controlled environment, and so seeing them in the wild, seeing them jump out of the sea, frolicking, so to speak, as it were, was quite wonderful. And we did see quite a few of them, I would wager, I would say, but I don't unfortunately have footage of that myself. My brother, I think, has some footage, but yeah, that was amazing. I wish I could kind of share it, but because that footage incorporates my niece and nephew, I'm not particularly inclined to share it. But it was great to kind of see these dolphins in their natural environment, jumping out of the water, and wonderful to sort of see them. The boat ride itself was kind of brilliant but scary at the same time. It's fair to say that it was like a glorified like sort of motorboat, as opposed to your typical, what I expected of a boat, really. And I was the poor sod who did not actually get a seat on said boat. I was actually perched on the edge holding onto this bar. I was assured I'd be absolutely fine, but from my point of view, I didn't feel particularly fine. I was a bit worried I was going to slip backwards and into the sea, which of course didn't happen. But nonetheless, I was just conscious of the fact that it's not the most secure thing. There were no seat belts. Not that I expected seat belts, but it was a bit, faintly nerve-wracking from my point of view. Although it was nice when we kind of stopped for a bit in this little bay, taking in some of the coastal sights of Sicily, and the boat's pilot, who was a lovely guy, he shared with us some prosecco and some pizza, which was quite the treat. A little bit different, not particularly used to having prosecco on a speedboat, but we did. And so, overall, I would say the whole experience absolutely wonderful. But all good things, of course, do sadly have to come to an end, and we did ultimately have to return home, which, in many respects, of course, coming home is nice. It's nice to get back to your own bed. The hotel beds were okay. It was an air-conditioned room, so that was okay as well. But nonetheless, coming back to your own house, your own environment, as much as it's nice to get away, of course it is. It's nice to have a break from routine. It does make you appreciate coming home again. It's nice to get back into your own bed. It's nice to just do the things you're used to doing once more, even if some of those things involve the inevitable return to work, of course, and that kind of thing. But overall, it was a lovely trip. Could have done without the flight home being delayed by about an hour, to be fair. That was a bit annoying, but other than that, absolutely fine all the way through. Would I have done it differently? Well, I would have tried to perhaps see to it that we could get to these Greek ruins a bit sooner and actually see them, but that was no one's fault, really. We all just kind of lost track of time, didn't know what we were doing. Other than that, it was lovely. It was absolutely lovely. And I would absolutely suggest to people that they should go and see Sicily. It's a lovely island. I would go as far as to say that the people there were quite warm and welcoming. I think the hotel staff certainly were. They made us feel quite comfortable over the course of the entire trip. And yeah, it was just something different. It was, I'd say, lovely and hot. It's about 34, 35 degrees each day. But it didn't feel too bad. I think if it was 35 degrees here in the UK, that heat, combined with how we tend to be slightly more humid, combined with the fact, of course, that I would be in work clothes most of the time rather than T-shirt and shorts, it would feel more oppressive. Indeed, on those rare occasions where we've had that kind of heat, it has felt more oppressive. So it's been very, very nice to kind of escape for a bit and enjoy the sunshine. But of course, as I say, all of that does ultimately have to come to an end, and it was back to work at the... I think my first day back at work was the beginning of September, actually. I think came back to work on the 1st of September. So, hey, great in some respects, of course. But it was back to the grindstone, of course, back to the day job, back to the routine, especially since my daughter's returned to school. Very much a case of being back into that normal pattern that we're used to. But among other things, my wife and I had our wedding anniversary recently. 15 years married, 20 years together, 15 years married. We haven't killed each other yet. We drive each other mad. Of that, I have no doubt. But hey ho, 20 years together, as I say, 15 years with rings on our fingers. We're doing something right, and that's wonderful to me. It really is. And from there, that's kind of it, really. Well, it's not it, actually. There have been a few little changes at work. We've got a new regional manager who's stepped in, and we'll have to kind of probably get used to him. We'll have to get used to us, but early kind of signs are that he's a decent guy who I think we can have conversations with, which is great. One of my colleagues is moving on to new pastures, so we will be looking at recruitment, which can take a while. It's just one of those things. So we'll probably have to knuckle down and get used to the idea that we'll have more loan trading to do. So that's all I can really kind of sort of say about that. I don't mind loan trading, actually, to be fair. I've said that before. What I don't particularly want is when you're doing it day after day after day. And there are occasions where it can be a nuisance. It's if it gets particularly busy, it can be stressful. So in any and all circumstances, we all try to avoid loan trading on weekends, because that can be when it gets particularly awkward. But other than that, it's usually not too bad, to be fair. So it's just a case of boredom more than anything else, and just sort of coping with that side of things. It's what normally happens if I loan trade is that it will be dead in the store from the moment that I open the doors right up until whatever point I decide to get something to eat. And it doesn't matter if I decide to have lunch bang on 12, half 12, 1 o'clock. I guarantee you it's at that moment that people will come in, and then usually they'll faff around for a while, and it just, I don't know what it is, if the fates themselves have it in for me eating when I want to eat, but that happens on an alarmingly regular basis. But hey ho, you just got to be a big boy and crack on with these things, don't you? So as you can see, a few more pictures flowing through of Sicily, of the coastal view of some of the yachts that we saw. The guy that was actually driving piloting the boat, he advised us that I think Jeff Bezos had his yacht come through at some point, and that yacht is crazy expensive, like £150 million worth of yacht that was coming through. We also saw a private hotel with its own private beach that looked very, very exclusive, very, very expensive. I dread to think what it actually costs per night at this place. Didn't look it up. I'm kind of afraid to, really. So that was quite an interesting little thing there. And beyond that, I don't really have a lot more to add to August. I mean, August began with nothing more than regular working sort of occasions, as it were, just the normal stuff, so to speak. What I will say is September has started, and it's like someone has thrown a switch in terms of the weather. The August weather in the UK didn't hit, the peaks and the heights of Sicily, but it was nonetheless quite hot, quite sunny, pretty much all of the time. September began, and things have rather sharply dipped in terms of temperature, and also it's gotten wetter, it's gotten more cloudy. It's as though someone has said, right, summer is well and truly officially over, bang on this date, and there we go. there we go. It's literally just come right down from what was previously something really quite nice. That's the UK for you in a nutshell. I mean, I'm looking out the window now, and there are thick grey clouds. It's been raining at times. It's been raining quite heavily. It's not raining at this exact second, but it won't take much for it to start again. It doesn't really compare, not even remotely, to the spectacular thunderstorm we saw whilst we were in Sicily. A thunderstorm which curiously had very little rain about it, but the lightning that we kind of bore witness to there was making the lights flicker in a clothes shop we happened to pop into. And also, rather curiously, actually, when we got back to the hotel and it was still kind of thunder and lightning, it took a while before anyone decided to get out the pool. It was as though this was kind of like a non-issue for a time. And all I'm thinking of was you're in a swimming pool and there's lightning, I'd get out straight away. But it was more of a casual thing to a lot of people in the pool. So, well, that's up to them, isn't it, really? I mean, I personally think water and lightning do not mix, and I will avoid water in a thunderstorm, but for these guys, not an issue. Maybe I'm actually thinking that it's a much bigger issue than it really is. Maybe it's not a big deal. Although the hotel did close the pool for a while during that occasion. So that's August. And it's been fun. It's a shame that it's come to an end. It's a shame in some respects to go back to the routine. Kids back at school means it's back to early alarms every single day. I mean, to be fair, being someone who has to go to work when the kids are off school, my alarm was still set for quite early, but now it's set for earlier. And now, even on a day off from work, I still find myself getting up early because there's no way around that. So it's just going to be those occasions, say, when I have a rare day off at a weekend where I don't have to set an alarm, but these days my alarm is pretty much permanently on, and it will be through until whenever the next half term is, or whenever the next kind of major holiday is. It'll just be a case of, non-stop for me. So that's it. That's where I'm going to leave you. Love you and leave you. I hope that you've enjoyed me ramble on for about 25 minutes or so, coming up to 25 minutes of rambling about my month. As always, you'll find that there's more content over at meerkatmusings.co.uk, including a rundown of my Sicily trip and all the other stuff that I like to rant about and talk about that's been going on over the course of the last few weeks. And there's obviously other content as well, so do feel free to check it out. If you have enjoyed this video, do feel free to like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that, of course. And if you have any comments you wish to add, I welcome comments. I tend to be rather happy to receive them, so please feel free. And we'll take it from there. Much love to you all. Take care.